Hi, welcome to MiloKit. In this video, I'll share a few examples of before and after audio processing, a few examples of videos with good audio, and lastly, some tips on how you can improve your audio.
We just published a new chatbot template with Google Gemini and the Vercel AI SDK, and I want to show you how it works. So on this demo, if I click on these widgets, I can list the flights flying from San Francisco to Rome today, and I get back this interactive component. Now, this is using React Server Components and Server Actions and the AI SDK. So I'm able to actually click on these rows. Let's say I want this 8:30 p.m. flight. I'm able to use the AI SDK to communicate. Hey, I'm Lee, and I'll be your guide in this video as we do a walkthrough of the Vercel platform. Vercel is a front-end cloud that gives you the frameworks, workflow, and infrastructure to build a fast and personalized web. So let's get into it. With Vercel's front-end cloud, we believe in starting with your front-end framework. And that's why we support over 35 different frameworks, including some of your favorites like React or Svelte, or even Next.js that we've created. So let's get started by deploying a template. I'll head over to our templates marketplace where we have a bunch of examples where you can sort or filter by the framework you want to use, the type of application you want to build, or the Vercel product that you want to use.
In the traditional setup, these teams worked in silos with different expertise and conflicting incentives. It was almost like there was a wall between them, so they were not aware of what each team was doing. For example, the development team wrote the code and tossed that code over the wall so the operations team could deploy and operate the app. Now, here's a problem with that setup. The development team had a deep understanding of how the app worked and why certain features were being deployed. They were incentivized to push out new features as fast as possible without understanding how these changes would affect the reliability of the system. On the other hand, the operations team specialized in deploying and running the application. The success of their team is measured by system reliability, so they're incentivized to move slower so they could evaluate how these changes would affect system reliability.
In this video, we're going to talk about what is GitOps and why it became so popular. The short explanation of GitOps is infrastructure as code done right, with all the best practices. Now let's see a bit longer explanation. So it all starts with infrastructure as code. As you know, the infrastructure as code concept is when you define your infrastructure as code instead of manually creating it. This makes our infrastructure much easier to reproduce and replicate. But note that infrastructure as code actually evolved into defining not only infrastructure, but also network as code or policy as code and configuration as code, etc. So it's not only about infrastructure anymore.
And it's just not a thing, okay? You find elegance in simplicity by making it as simple as possible, but no simpler. Now, that's something that was attributed to Einstein. He didn't exactly say those words. He had a speech he gave in the 1930s, and somebody walked away and said, well, what he said in effect was, make it as simple as possible, but no simpler. And in a sense, that's just an application of Occam's razor, right? From a software perspective, build what you need, just enough to make it work, and add complexity, add abstractions only when they're necessary to get done what you need to get done.
Welcome to Docker 101. If your goal is to ship software in the real world, one of the most powerful concepts to understand is containerization. When developing locally, it solves the age-old problem of it works on my machine, and when deploying in the cloud, it solves the age-old problem of this architecture doesn't scale.
This was definitely a crazy tweet. I saw this. Okay, check this out. Hold on. Rust teams at Google are as productive as ones using Go and more than twice as productive as teams using C++.
And you can see here is our Rust tutorial. So I'm just going to change over into my Rust tutorial directory and we can investigate what exactly is going on inside of here.
To improve your audio, you can do so at the recording stage. You could buy some audio hardware or adjust your recording settings. For instance, if you use OBS Studio, there are audio filters that you can tweak. There are videos on YouTube that shows you how you can do that. After recording, you could use a service like Adobe's Podcast Enhance. It's a one-click solution, which means there's very few parameters that you can change.
Let's listen to the original audio file.
I'm currently recording this on my iPhone. You know, the microphone's not terrible, but with Adobe Podcast, it's going to sound significantly better.
There's a little bit of noise in the background. It's maybe a little tinny. It's not really something you'd want to listen to when it comes to a full-length podcast. Once you upload it, it's going to basically give you this slider, and you can actually adjust just how much processing is going to be done to the clip. By default, it's set to 90% strength, so let's go ahead and listen to what it did.
I'm currently recording this on my iPhone. You know, the microphone's not terrible, but with Adobe Podcast, it's going to sound significantly better.
There's also another service called Descript, which is similar to Adobe, but I was running into issues trying to log in. Lastly, you can use a service like MeloKit, where we will process the audio all manual, or as I like to call it, in an artisanal manner. Thanks for watching.